I'm Jenni Carlson here with Gina Mizell. We're in Stillwater, where Oklahoma State has defeated TCU 36-14. Gina, a big win for Oklahoma State. The news of the day, Wes Lunt returns. How do you think it performed today?
Well, he started out pretty slow, as did the whole offense. As a whole, he kind of just looked uncomfortable. He looked a little tentative, and obviously had the pick six, which was TCU's first touchdown. They were backed up deep in their own territory on that play. But as the game got going, he started to make better throws. And then, when the Cowboys finally scored a touchdown on 4th and goal, Jeremy Smith gets into the end zone. That really seemed to just spark this team. But overall, they went from they kicked 5 field goals, but overall scored 36 unanswered points in this game. So again, it was a good performance for Wes Lunt. Not great, but it was nice, of course, for the Cowboys for him to return.
18 of 33 was Wes Lunt for 324 yards, had that pick Gina mentioned and a touchdown pass. It seemed like, though, that you mentioned the 36 unanswered. While the offense did the scoring, the defense also played some shutdown defense. Talk about that defense. We've seen them really start to come into their own these last couple weeks.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the Iowa State game, and after giving up 10 points in the first quarter, 11 consecutive stops for this defense. And then today, they gave up 1 touchdown. Obviously, like I mentioned before, the pick six was one of TCU's scores. So the defense gives up 1 touchdown and then nothing else the rest of the game. So, again, we heard so much about this defense coming into the season. I think, they're finally back healthy. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. They're getting good pursuit up the middle from those defensive tackles, and they started to force some turnovers as well. So I think we're starting to kind of see midway through the season this defense come around a little bit, but 2 touchdowns they've given up in the past 2 games, that's pretty darn good against no matter who you're playing.
In the Big 12, when they like to pass it around and score a bunch, it's really difficult to hold teams to that. Joe Randall, the other story in this game offensively for the Cowboys, 32 carries, Gina, and had 5 catches, so 37 touches for Joe Randall today. Can he keep up that kind of production?
Well, I don't think the coaches want him to, and I don't think he's going to need to, because Jeremy Smith it was now back for the first time, really. He had 1 carry against Kansas, he had 1 carry against Iowa State, and then seemed to tweak that ankle that's been bothering him and, limped off the field and never came back into the game. So I think now that he's back, again, he scored that big touchdown. I think that really helps this offense. But, yeah, Joseph Randall has turned into a workhorse for this team. That's something we've written about earlier this week, and that was his first game with 30 carries. But he kind of, again, was that methodical type runner that we expected him to be against a really good TCU rushing defense that doesn't give up 100 yards a game on average. So he played well again and was kind of the key consistent part of this offense.
TCU doesn't give up more than 100 yards rushing, but he had 126 today. Great day for Joe Randall. Lastly, Gina, real quickly, let's look ahead for a second. Kansas State now looms on the schedule for Oklahoma State, a really murderous stretch, 4 games that are going to be super tough. It starts next week at Manhattan. How much of a challenge are these Wildcats going to present to Oklahoma State?
Oh, I mean, it's going to be a really tough test, for this Oklahoma State team going on the road against Kansas State, against Colin Klein, who's arguably the Heisman front runner right now. But you mentioned this isn't just a tough game; it's a tough stretch for these Cowboys. They got West Virginia coming in here on November 10th, then they got TCU or Texas Tech coming in here on November 17th. Then they go to OU. So really, when you look at this game, this win, this was huge for this team, not just, to get another win in Big 12 play, but they might need this to get bowl eligible, depending on how the stretch goes to end the season. So big win tonight, tough stretch coming up, and the Cowboys are going to be viewed as underdogs in a lot of these games coming up. But if they keep putting together performances like the way they have the past 2 weeks, they might be able to score an upset. But in Manhattan next week, it's going to be very, very tough.
All right. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.